Hello viewers, Super GT here. Has your race ever been ruined by a penalty in Gran Turismo Sport? The answer is yes, obviously. We're going to go through a couple of examples of how that can happen on this game around Dragon Trail Gardens. Amazing circuit, love the track, love the place, and we're driving the Group 4 Volkswagen Scirocco, which seems to have come up a couple of times in the last couple of days. So starting from pole position, initially going defensive to cover the inside line. I didn't use traction control. I think that possibly going against me there, but although I wasn't quite sure. And I don't normally do Daily Race A, which seems to always have a standing start rather than a rolling one in Daily Race C. But anyway, a decent getaway at the beginning of the lap, pulling away by 3/4 of a second. Now, being on pole position is, it's important. It's a big part of the race where you start. Actually receiving a bit of a contact from behind there, and we're just going to actually get through the corner okay without getting murdered, which is always good news. But yeah, starting pole position obviously a massive advantage, especially in a race as short as this, only 5 laps, so it's going to be about 8 minutes. I mean, if you're going to be starting at the back, you haven't really got much chance if there's someone at the front who's quite good. So you really do need to set a good qualifying lap time. But anyway, rounding out the lap here, so the gap hovering still around about 3/4 of a second. I think the French guy and the Brit behind very close on qualifying time, so we should be fairly evenly matched throughout the race. So going deep into this final corner, double apex final turn at Dragon Trail Gardens. Brilliant circuit this, absolutely love it to bits. Wish they would bring out more like this. Well, I mean, any of the fake tracks in this game are normally very good actually. So we are actually due, I suppose this month, another fictional circuit. It seems to go fictional then real, fictional real each month with the tracks they add. But yeah, here we are, Dragon Trail Gardens. Now, the theme of the video, penalties. We do talk about this a lot, but they do come up a lot. That's why, as we're actually getting very, very close, or the Frenchman is getting very close to me. I'm going to go defensive, force him to the outside, still hit my mark. Once he's gone to the outside, you can kind of just give him a car whip from the outside and then go as far as you can to the outside, obviously without pushing into them, just to make sure you can still take a good line through the corner. And we've successfully defended first place there. So the penalty system is interesting. We see Forza, we see other games where you don't have a system, people do stupid stuff, no real penalty for doing anything. You can just get away with, ramming people off, waiting a lap, pushing people out, all of this nonsense. On this game, I suppose it does minimise that, even though it does get it wrong a fair few times. It's not perfect. It is really hard to get a system that works perfectly all the time if it's a inbuilt system into the game. If it's not a human who has to judge it every time, which is just simply implausible. You can't have thousands of people just judging every lobby. It's going to be hard to get a system that works all the time every time, but it is a deterrent at least, so you don't do stupid stuff in fear of getting a penalty. As Frenchman looks up the inside, we make contact halfway through the corner. He's going to take the lead, so fair play to him. Up into first place as we begin the third lap, coming through the chicane. Tiny bit of a bump in the rear end as we go through the chicane, and a 4-second penalty for that tiny bump. Yes, mad Super GT, mad pig man has come out to play now. So this is a very good example, case study number 1 if you like, getting a penalty when nothing. I mean, yes, we made contact, but really, if anything, I boosted him and he got away from me. So yeah, this is a good example of the system not really working properly, and you could say it's going to ruin the race, because there's no way I can beat this guy now with a 4-second penalty unless he just completely capitulates, crashes, goes into the pit lane when he's not meant to. If I can just push him into the pit lane then I might stand a chance. Other than that, I suppose we could still just have a good race from here. He goes very defensive, cuts back across in anticipation that I would move more to the right, but I didn't, so I kept the inside line. And I'm going to move back into first place, but of course, once I have to serve that penalty, it's unlikely I'm going to stay here. I suppose all we can do now is just make a race of it. Let's see if I can just still cross the line first, or cross the line ahead of him. And obviously it won't be enough to win, but it'll still be something you can claim, I suppose. Into the chicane then, I'm on the outside a little bit ahead, and I can use that just to get ahead into the first left sweeper of that chicane. And back into first place, so a good battle here actually. So even though we're fighting, and even though I've got a penalty, it's still a good battle. And I've got a decision really, because third place isn't too far away, maybe 2 seconds behind this battle, and I've got a 4-second penalty, so I do need to be careful with exactly how much I choose to fight. If I fight too much, I'm going to lose a lot of time. Third and fourth will catch up, and then I might even risk losing second. So I should have second in the bag, but it's not guaranteed if I continue to fight till the end of the race. So good battling through the technical sector here with the Frenchman. Good respectful fighting between the two of us. I'm expecting him to cut back on me here. Yes, he does, with a wide entry and then the narrow exit. So still good fighting. I'm just about alongside, and I'm going to get the run here, get the momentum somehow, I suppose, with the wider and more open line coming out of that corner. So still into the final corner, still ahead in that second apex. There we go. In third gear, the car does like to straighten itself out when you get on full throttle, so you do have to be really careful. We saw that in the previous video, the Volkswagen shootout, where I was driving this car around Maggiore. It's exactly the same car, so I'm kind of used to the way it works. As soon as you mash that throttle, it likes to straighten out, so you really have to kind of watch exactly how much throttle you are putting down on the exits of the corners. You can see how much I'm putting down. There's a little bar on below my rear right tyre. There's a white bar, and that's the bar you want to be looking at. It's full at the moment, and then just below the left rear wheel we've got another bar which is empty at the moment, but will fill up once I start braking. So there it is, there it's going up. So into the hairpin, good overtaking opportunity that, into the tightest corner, probably the tightest corner on the circuit. And the slipstream is actually fairly noticeable in these cars. It's actually very noticeable indeed. If you're within a second or so, you will start feeling that draft, and you can gain a tenth or two on a straight, which can be crucial, especially when you're driving the same car. 59.5 purple sector through the final split there, or second to last split, should I say. So we still have about a third of the lap remaining, or less than that now. He's getting very close. I'm going to go defensive. I'm going to stick to the left hand side, make him go to the right. He's going to have to go the long way round. Make sure I don't outbrake myself. And he isn't quite able to go for the cutback on the exit. So this is the final lap. I've got a 4-second penalty. I'm going to move to the left hand side to serve the penalty. He's going to follow me. So I'm going to brake here, and he better move. I think he does. So there we go. I'm going to slow down, serve the penalty, although not quite all of it, and finish second. There we go. So it's a shame that penalty kind of happened there, because I could have won that race legit, and it kind of ruined everything. So I actually lost SR. I was S sportsmanship. I went down to A as a result of that somehow. So it gave him a nice message there. Good race. It was still a really good race, and he said, "I'm sorry, that was fun." Maybe he knew that there was a weird penalty going on there, but ultimately it was still a very fun race. And finishing second and getting a pole position, which is quite rare for me. But we move on to a second example, because when I get a race like that, I don't really want to end on that kind of note. I want to kind of go out on a positive. So we're going to go again, once again from pole. I somehow seem to manage to get a very good lap time in qualifying. And again, I think I do need to turn on traction control off the line, at least just off the line, as with zero drag control, the car just burns rubber basically. Into the first chicane, I've bumped into the back of the Spaniard. Big mistake, and we're going to get a 5-second penalty. Frustrating, I understand it. You know, I did hit him. I did hit him. He didn't really lose out. He's got a 1 second penalty as well. You do get like a little orange text flashing up at the bottom of the screen. As he brakes really early for the hairpin, so I'm going to go back around his outside, up into first place. So a weird example there, a weird one. I mean, 5 seconds is quite a lot. I mean, that is big for that kind of action. I know I did punt him, and the game just can't quite decide exactly what I did there. I mean, for all the game knows, I just punted him off the circuit, when obviously I didn't. He I pushed him on into the corner a little bit more than he would have wanted, but he kind of kept the lead. I backed off to make sure he did keep the lead. But here we go then. It's another example here of somehow I'm going to have to fight for this and just hope. I mean, what I'm hoping really is that this Swiss guy behind starts battling, and then they can just lose 5 seconds. Although you don't actually lose 5 seconds from serving a penalty. If I wait until the very end of the race and serve it just before I finish the race as I cross the line, you might lose maybe 2 seconds from a 5 second penalty as you brake before the line. So I ideally need a 2 or 3 second gap from here to the end of the race. If that can happen, then there's still a chance that I can win it. Although the Swiss guy here does look very racy as I just tipped 2 wheels onto the grass, and quite how I caught that, I do not know. I'm going to be a bit more careful here. I might have fought that one around his outside, but I've decided just to back off and let him kind of go through there. So now the Spaniard up into second. This isn't looking good really. Down into third with 5 seconds worth of penalty. So not an ideal situation. As the Spaniard goes for a lunge, looks for the inside line. Is it quite going to happen for him? No. So all I need here really, these two just to wipe each other out or get a massive penalty. I don't think it's really possible for me to serve the penalty and then still get back on terms with them unless they really do fight a lot. But for now I'm just going to stick with the battle, kind of do what we did in the previous race, stay in the fight and then kind of hope that something materialises. And basically we're going to play the long game here, because if I serve the penalty now I'm going to go down to like 6th or 7th place. I'll be stuck in traffic, there's no chance of getting back into first and second. So for now we'll play the long game, have a nice race, see if I can still win the race on merit, see if I can still cross the line first or get to the line first before I serve the penalty. That is. Spaniard up the inside, sort of barges the Spaniard a little bit wide, the Swiss guy, manages to resist the attack though. That's going to put him on the back foot now. The Spaniard up the main straight, going slightly defensive. Thinking about that move, I'm not really anywhere near close enough to go for that lunge here. It's a very fast entry into this first corner. You just need a dab of brakes as we now head towards the second chicane. I'm going to be a bit more careful this time, as he actually brakes really early. So this time I'm going to go around the outside. I suppose that's what I should have done on the first lap. That curve kind of awkward there. As you go over that curve, there's a massive red section you see there. I've got another penalty added, 1.5 seconds onto that. So interesting. I did run slightly wide, so I'm not really blaming the game for any of the penalties that happened so far, although the 5 second was a bit strong, I think, for what happened. But still, we can continue. I don't think that's going to be the end of the race. We can still continue and try to make something of it. I suppose you can always try to just cross the line for pride, cross the line first for pride, as the Swiss guy is getting all out of shape as we now go into the quadruple apex. Turn number, I don't even know. Beautiful corner this, really does flow very nicely, and it's a great track. I've always said this, Dragon Trail Gardens, one of the best circuits on the game I think. As we now hurtle towards the final turn, looking for the edge of the curve, which is here, 100 board, and you go kind of trail braking in, deep entry, then you cut back to that second apex, there we go, carrying a lot of speed in, and then you can still get a lot of speed out. We're going to tuck that slipstream the best we can. The Spaniard dropping a second away in third place. So there we go, that might help. I could get second as a result if the Spaniard still continues to drop time. As I said, well, I've actually got 6.5 second penalty now, and that might take about 3 seconds to actually serve it. So I need to get about 3 seconds ahead of this guy, or ahead of the Spaniard to keep second. So through the chicane, just really wary of making contact with him. I think he's gone wide. It might have looked like I made contact. I think he did kind of what I did on the previous lap, just graze that red section of the curb, and it just makes your car go straight on. And he doesn't actually get a penalty from that time, as he goes for a move up the inside from quite far back, and there's no way that's quite going to work out for him. So I'm going to retake the lead. So good racing there actually. It's always good to, he's quite aggressive, this guy, but it's always good to have a good fair fight. If someone's going to go for a move, as long as they do it properly, then I'm more than okay with that. So retake the lead. So it's exciting to see changes for the lead as we go down the dip again into the very long right-hander. As we hit the second apex, the third, it's a very difficult one to get right this. And again, as I said, because of the throttle, as you get on the throttle, it does want to open out. The car does want to straighten up. As they've both got penalties now, that is interesting. That is very interesting. Obviously, I don't know how big those penalties are. I'm hoping above 6.5 seconds, and then I might have a chance of winning this thing. So this is the end of lap 4. There's only 5 laps, so we've got one more to go. They are both flashing red. They both have penalties. We all have penalties here. I don't know how big the penalties are. That is going to be crucial, I think. I would assume that mine are bigger, but we don't know at this point. So I'm actually ghosting out there as I go through turn 1. He's going up the inside. He's had a really good run through turn 1. I'm going to kind of go in deep. See there, going really deep on the brakes to make sure he doesn't go up the inside. And it's kind of worked actually. So keep him in first place, even though there's little chance I'm actually going to win this. As we now come down towards the hairpin, I think I've got enough of a margin, about 3/10, that he would be very brave. He has done it before, to go for a move from there. It's going a little deep. He's looking for it. There's a bit of contact. It was actually quite a good attempt, to be fair to him. He nearly made that work, as I just about keep the position. So still in first with half a lap to go. Will I be able to get out of that final corner in first place and then hope that they have a small enough penalty, or big enough penalty, sorry, as they are both definitely flashing red. As we come into this right-hander, receiving a big hit from the Swiss as we go down into third place. And he's actually got a penalty, increased penalty from that. It's saying 10 seconds added on to him. I actually got a 1 second added on. So we don't know how big the Spaniard's penalty is. His should be the smallest out of the 3 of us. So I'm assuming he should be able to win this one now. As we go through the final corner, he actually makes contact with the Swiss guy, who is going to win. First and second, they're both next to each other. Who has the smaller penalty? It's kind of a drag, or weird drag race to the end, as we're all going to slow down to serve our penalty. The Swiss guy doesn't actually slow down very much. And we crossed the line to finish second. And the Spaniard had a bigger penalty. He still had a penalty of 1 second there as he crossed the line. He did serve most of it. But somehow, the Swiss guy had nothing. He had no penalty. He served all of his penalty before he crossed the line. So I just want to take a look at that again. As we come into here, receive the hit, okay, and then it tells you at the screen here, the other guy got plus 10 seconds. And, well, how he served that in the space of half a second, I don't know. But anyway, he's won that race somehow. Quite how that worked out was beyond me. So again, it's kind of a weird example there. The race kind of decided weirdly by penalties, even though it was actually quite a decent little battle between the 3 of us. So again, don't want to leave the video on a low note. We're going to go once again, yes. We're going to try to make sure we win this one. So you see this time going into traction control setting 3 off the line, and then putting it down to 0 once we've got through the first couple of gears. And then you don't really need traction control, I would say. In Group 4 the cars are kind of okay without it. It's very easy to drive without traction control in this class. It's just off the line, that's where you kind of need it. So gap there already up to 1.2, which is obviously a very good start. Let's see if we can capitalise on this initial opening by having a good lap. I think on this first lap you kind of just got to forget everything else. If you've got that gap, about a second, there's no way they're going to overtake you from a second back, unless they go for a mega punt of the century and send you into the shadow realm. But all you've got to do really is just get your head down, focus on your corners, remember everything you learned in qualifying, hit your markers, hit your brakes and zones, and just try and set a blistering lap and really just get away early doors. If you can get that big gap opened, early on in the race, it does kind of unsettle the other drivers as they begin to wonder, actually, we're not going to catch up with him, let's just start fighting for second. So this is lap 2, and it wasn't going to be them catching up with me on pure pace, it was just because I made these stupid mistakes. You see they're just grazing that red curb, and it is really quite a fine line between getting it dead right and doing that, which was ended up doing a bloody wheelie on the grass. So I lost maybe 8 or 9 tenths as a result of that, which is big, and I went deep, obviously phased by my mistake and the fact he was catching up, making another mistake, so 2 consecutive mistakes, 2 consecutive corners. But this is the end of lap 4. The race kind of settled down. He was mainly sitting around about 3-4 tenths off my bumper, but never really going for a move. But it's always, you know, it's always pretty tense when someone's sitting that close. 3 tenths isn't a big gap. Coming up the main straight, he is 3 tenths behind. He's in the slipstream. I'm moving across just to try to unsettle him and try and get him out of my slipstream, but he's still going to follow me. Into the first corner, he's 2 tenths down. Always monitoring that gap on the top left of the screen, just to really realise how close they are. If they're within 2 tenths, then they're probably going to go for a move, but they're going to be very close. So they're probably going to pull out at least and look for it. Into the chicane, I was kind of strong through here, nailing it that time. You see here, that's what you want to do. That's kind of how you want to do it. So the red part is directly down the centre of your car, and your left wheel is really on the left hand side of that curve. And as a result of that, got myself a nice buffer into the hairpin of about 4 tenths. So it's not quite close enough on that occasion, although you can see him just flash through the screen, as he was very good on the brakes. So he carried a lot of speed in. I'm going to get more speed on the exit. Gap going above 4 tenths now, almost towards 5 tenths. As we have not many corners left, he does need to have a good little section here. And he still has a shot into the final turn, which is also a very good overtaking opportunity. Going a little deep on the way in, but you can always compensate by cutting back and getting a good exit. Just dipping 2 wheels onto the red tarmac, but we have pulled through into the final corner. I don't think he's close enough. You just basically don't have to bottle it now. Looking for that 100 board, edge of that curb, trail brake in, go deep. We've done it 15 times, or that's our 15th time now, not including qualifying as well. So we should be able to nail that. As finally, on the 3rd attempt, we're going to win a race. Now, I do hope you enjoyed the video as always, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the video, on the penalty system, whatever. Give me your examples of how the penalty system might have really favoured you or really screwed you over. I would like to hear them. But there we go. A race win, a pole position, and a fastest lap. Good times indeed. Thank you for watching as always. Subscribe for more, hit the like button if you enjoyed, and I shall see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.